So for our New Testament passage, I will read it first, and then we will talk about the many similarities between what happened in this story and what has happened to us over the past 2 weeks. So here is a reading from the Gospel according to Matthew, chapter 17, verses 1 through 8. Hear now the word of the Lord. A few days later, Jesus took with him Peter, James, and John, the brother of James, and led them up a high mountain by themselves. There he was transfigured before them. His face shone like the sun, and his clothes became as white as the light. Just then there appeared before them Moses and Elijah, talking with Jesus. Peter said to Jesus, "Lord, it is good for us to be here. If you wish, I will put up 3 shelters, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." While he was still speaking, a bright cloud covered them, and a voice from the cloud said, "This is my son, whom I love. With him I am well pleased. Listen to him." When the disciples heard this, they fell face down to the ground, terrified. But Jesus came and touched them. "Get up," he said. "Don't be afraid." And when they looked up, they saw no one except Jesus. So in that story, a certain group of people were living their normal lives, going about their regular routines of day in, day out, work and schedule, and then suddenly, bam, something incredible happens to them. 2.5 weeks ago, we were going about our normal, regular routines and schedules, day in, day out, of work or family or errands, and then, bang, something happened to us. In the story, everyone else that was on the ground, they continued going about their business. They did not experience the incredible event that Peter, James, and John did. Also with us, people outside of Western North Carolina, they continued going about their normal routines. We have had this different kind of experience. So in the story, they were up on a mountain. What do you know? We live up on mountains as well. And in this story, it is a classic example of a mountaintop experience. And you might have heard that word used, a mountaintop experience. Oh, yes, I was gone at a retreat last week. It was a real mountaintop experience. It's the kind of time where usually you are somewhere different, or you have a different special kind of experience that isn't usual. You see things, you hear things, you learn things, and it affects you in a big way. So like for me, I've had those kind of great mountaintop experiences. When I was a teenager, I would go to youth camp every summer, and it was awesome. It was wonderful. It really inspired me and changed me. And then even as an adult, I started chaperoning youth groups to youth camp, and it was still mountaintop experiences. One time I got to go to Nicaragua for 2 weeks and stay out in a little village in the jungle and sharing such beautiful life with beautiful people, helping them get clean water to drink. It was eye-opening and inspiring. It was a mountaintop experience. And yes, normally when we talk about mountaintop experiences, usually they're all kind of good or great or just 100% wonderful and fun. But they don't really have to be. And ours, 2 weeks ago, on that Friday morning, and for many afterwards, it was not great and it was not wonderful, but it was incredible. It was mind-blowing. Since then, there has been beautiful things happening. I bet you have seen or heard or experienced amazing stories of help and generosity and service, of neighbors helping neighbors in amazing ways. I mean, when the Cajun Navy comes to your town, that's incredible, in their boats on the waters. When a rescue team of mules gets driven up by trailer, that's amazing. That's awesome. When a freaking helicopter lands right over there, that's amazing. Taking generators to Burnsville, to a place that couldn't get access. We have been part of amazing things, not normal things. We've been affected. We have been changed. It is a mountaintop experience that we have lived through. And like the story that we just read 2 Fridays ago, there was a big cloud, lots of big clouds, lots of wind, tornadoes even. In the story, the disciples were terrified, it said. They were scared, and we were too. We couldn't call or communicate with anybody in the world for days, and that was scary. We didn't know if our friends were okay. We knew that our families were worried about us. We saw the rivers rising, and that was scary, and it was terrifying. The disciples saw surprising things they never thought possible, and we have too. On that first Friday afternoon, I was looking for any place that could have cell service to tell my mom I was okay. So I decided to risk it and drive into Asheville on I-26, and looking down on Riverside Drive and seeing the French Broad almost to the interstate. I never thought I would see that. That was a surprising thing to see. And even in the aftermath, the pictures that we've seen of the devastation, you almost don't know what you're looking at. We have seen mind-blowing, surprising things, and we have been changed. In Luke's version of this story, in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 9, he points out that when Jesus took these disciples up on top of the mountain, Jesus started praying, as he did, and before all the excitement happened, the disciples fell asleep, as they did. So in Luke's version, it said they were very sleepy, but then they became fully awake. No kidding. For us, I think, in our regular day in, day out lives, I think we were kind of asleep. I don't think we had recognized what had been really important in life. I think we were going through life like this. I think we spent a lot of time inside, not connecting with others. I think we were asleep to what was really important, asleep to what our own needs were. And I think now we have become fully awake. Now we can appreciate some things that we had not appreciated before, like just being with good people. There's a street right across from Tommy's Diner, Wildwood Avenue. And apparently, after the power went out, every day they would gather together and just grill out because they didn't want the food to go to waste. So they'd have a street party, a block party every day. They had a fun name. It was like Wildwood Party or something like that. And they loved it. And it was great. They met neighbors they hadn't met before because nobody knows their neighbors these days and no one talks to them, right? So every day they got together, they hung out, they ate good food, they had fun. They realized this is really nice. It's like they had been woken up to the blessings of their own street and neighborhood. And then a guy that lives there, he said, when the power came back on, everybody said, Oh, I guess we'll just go back inside now. It was nice hanging out. Someone said, wait, shouldn't we do this? Yeah, shouldn't we do this some more? Maybe so. Maybe we've all been awoken to what is really important in life. In the story, you heard what Simon Peter did once he was woken up out of his slumber. He jumped into action and he was running around. In Luke's version, it says in parentheses, he did not know what he was talking about. And when we read this story, we read it because maybe we've heard this story or we know the ending. We read it and we say, oh, silly Peter. He's so silly. He's always just jibber-jabbing, just, he's so silly. But I can say for me, that has been me this past 2 weeks. Once that hurricane hit, I started running around. Things started happening. Here at the church, a commotion arose, an energy. I wanted to help. For the first few days, I couldn't really get out. I couldn't talk to anybody. I felt guilty that I couldn't do something because I wanted to do something. I wanted to help. I wanted to do anything. And so finally, when we could get stuff going here at the church, I was literally running around. I would see somebody out front and they would say, hey, do you have some food? Do you have MREs, meals ready to eat? And I'll say, they're in the back. I'll meet you there. Or there'd be somebody at the back and they'd say, do you have any fresh drinking water? And I'll say, it's at the front. I'll meet you there. Or I'd say, oh, we got this big donation of water. Quick, Jackson, carry those 40 packets of water into the fellowship hall. Oh, quick, Carissa, make a sign that says free haircuts. Now we're offering free haircuts. That's crazy. Oh, Jarrett, help organize a food pantry for us that we never had before. It's just, I was that Peter because there was so much to do, good things. Sometimes it would be silly things. There was a lot of decisions I made, especially those first few days, that I regretted, that were dumb. I wasted a lot of gas or a lot of time because we didn't know. We didn't know what was the best thing to do. And that's okay. That's what we've been like, wanting to go, wanting to help. We and everyone, we've done good things, great things, sometimes silly things. Sometimes people would come to the church with a giant trailer, like 3 plastic totes high, full of clothes from 2 states away. And that's wonderfully nice, all kind of gently used clothes that they wanted to give. We could not receive them here at the church. And so we'd say, I'm sorry, we can't take those. And they would say, but we want to give them to you. And we'd say, I'm sorry, we don't have a place to put them. But we've been to 3 places that couldn't take them, and we want to give them away. People just want to help. They want to do stuff. We are like Peter. When something crazy and scary happens, we just jump and start running around. And did you notice what Peter did, what he said? He said, oh, Jesus, this is great. Okay, if you want me to, I'll build 3 shelters. I'll put up some tents. 1 for Moses, 1 for Elijah. They've been dead 2,000 years. I'm glad they're here. Let's build a place for them to stay. I'll build 1 for you. We can stay here. This is perfect. Let's keep this going, man. This is great. And I know that temptation. I feel that temptation. Because the last 2 weeks here at the church, every day, it's been pumping. It's been rocking. It's been jumping. Full of people, neighbors helping neighbors, love being shown, love being received. It's awesome. Like I said, go downstairs and look at the explosion of ministry. And I want to keep that going, right? But this is not normal times. We've had a mountaintop experience. And eventually we will get back to normal times. It won't be the same as it used to be, and we shouldn't be the same. But that kind of jittery, go energy it feels really good. I ran into a friend of mine yesterday that I hadn't seen throughout the whole thing, and she said, "Oh, how are you?" And we were connecting. "How was your house? How's your family?" She said, "How are you doing?" And I said, I was trying to be honest. And I said, I think I'm feeling really good. That might just be the adrenaline talking, but I think I'm feeling good. But we can't sustain a constant life of go, go, go adrenaline. It feels good. If you've got a chainsaw and you're out there every day, you're cutting limbs, you're cutting trees, that's awesome. If you're carrying water and you're pouring out clean drinking water in a hose, or you're managing showers, that feels great, that's awesome. But that constancy of adrenaline, that's not an everyday, normal life, stable kind of balance. So we will not be in this time forever. We will eventually transition to a new kind of normal. I hope we can capture some of the beauty, some of the miracles that I've seen. And I try not to use that term too loosely. But that's kind of what it feels like. When you wake up one morning and your church has no food pantry, because we never really needed one, and by the time you go to sleep, you have a completely fully stocked food pantry from floor to ceiling, organized and ready to go to feed your community. And that kind of feels like a little miracle right there. The stuff that we have offered. There was a few days ago, a woman drove down the street and she saw the sign that said hot showers. And she just saw that sign and she burst into tears. And it was just a rinky-dink handmade sign that I had scratched real quick. It wasn't one of Carissa's beautiful, awesome signs. I had just, with a big Sharpie, hot showers, and I taped it, not pretty like. But she drove by and saw that, and she just started crying. And that we could do that. I want to capture that feeling. There'd be times when someone would come in kind of early on, they'd say, "Do y'all take diapers?" And we'd say, "Well, no, but we can, I guess." And then 5 minutes later, somebody would say, "Do you have diapers?" We'd say, "What size?" They'd go, "That size." We'd say, "Yeah, sure, we got diapers." Or somebody would come in and say, "Do y'all take bedding?" And we'd say, "Well, we haven't, but I guess we can." 5 minutes later, somebody would say, "Hey, where's that bedding?" "Oh, somebody already took it." The first day that the lunch was offered from World Central Kitchen, shout out to the amazing folks at World Central Kitchen. They have been bringing hundreds of hot lunches, and especially early on, I think it was like the Tuesday afterwards, really in kind of dire need people had of hot lunches. And so we gave them all out pretty quick. And then this woman came in, and you could tell that she was at the end of her rope, as many people had been. She was without power and water. You could tell that she had seen some things, and she had experienced some things. And she just needed to sit down and breathe. And she said, "I'm so hungry. Do you have a hot meal?" And we did not. We had just run out. We had some crackers, though. Would you like some crackers? She was allergic to gluten, even the crackers. We couldn't help. And then someone walks in with this big bag who runs a restaurant here on Main Street and said, "We had this wedding event that got canceled, so we had all this food. We made this really fancy hot meals. Would you want to have them?" And we said, "Yes." And so we said, "Here, ma'am, here's a hot meal." She was crying. We were all crying. It was loaves and fishes kind of stuff. It was amazing. Well, that's just some incredible stories. They're incredible. I bet you have seen and heard some incredible stories. It's tempting to want to keep that going so that that kind of miraculous stuff happens every day, to try and stay on the mountain forever. That's what Peter wanted. "Jesus, let's stay here forever. This is awesome. Let's build tents. Let's build shelters. Let's stay here on top of this mountain. Normal life is so boring. This is miraculous." We want to feel this every day. But you can't stay on the mountain forever. There's people down there on the ground who need to be helped and served and inspired and hear what you have felt and know the Jesus that you have seen. This is an exceptional time that we have lived through in good ways and definitely in bad ways. It is not a normal time. Eventually, we will get to a new kind of normal time. Even now, we are kind of heading down the mountain a little bit, kind of transitioning as we return to a little sense of normalcy. You can see that in the worships that we've been having on Sunday. 2 Sundays ago, we didn't have lights. We were huddled in the corner. Last Sunday, we had lights. We had musicians. We didn't have any printed orders of service. Today, we've got a little something. I've even tucked my shirt in. Things are starting to balance out. Yes, the cleanup work will take a long, long time, but we are coming back down from the adrenaline rush of that mountaintop. So now, as we return to what life will be, what the new normal will be, we are different than we were 2.5 weeks ago. We are different than we were before this hurricane. Our community is different. Western North Carolina is different. One way that we are different now is that we are in mourning. M-O-U-R-N, mourning. We often talk about mourning when we've lost a loved one, perhaps. Well, that's what you do. When you experience a loss, you mourn. And our community, Western North Carolina, has experienced a lot of loss of lives, of jobs, of houses, of schools, of communities. We have experienced a loss, a grief, a wound. We have been wounded. We are in mourning. That kind of loss produces grief, and we will need time to figure that out, to figure out what normal life will be like. And that's what the mourning period does for us. After we lose a loved one, we are in a period of mourning for a long time sometimes. And then we kind of figure out how to be in the world again, different than we were before. But that mourning time helps us to mend the brokenness, the wounds, as we remember ourselves. So, as we move forward, as we continue to kind of figure out what the new ground normal life will be like, what are good ways for us to level out and set up a healthy balance in the future? The first thing is to recognize that whatever you have felt the last 2 weeks and whatever you will feel is okay. You are having a normal reaction to an abnormal event. What we experienced was not normal. So whatever kinds of things you have felt, guilt, anger, sadness, gratitude, beauty, all those things are okay. My friend that I ran into yesterday, when I said, "How are you holding up?" And she said, "Well, I'm a little better. I was crying about 3 times every day. Now I'm just down to 1. And as we talked and as we shared, she said, "Oh, this is the 1 time today." And that's okay. We are having normal reactions to an abnormal event. So we've been wounded. Our community has been wounded. The best medicine for that wound is talking. Talking is the best healing medicine for those wounds that we have experienced. So I encourage you to do that. Just find somebody, grab a cup of coffee, grab a drink, get a meal. Now some of the restaurants here open, and say, man, you wouldn't believe the stuff I heard and saw. What did you hear? What did you see? Just talk. Just share it out. And then I want you to intentionally visualize a better, hopeful future. Things will get better. Things are getting better. Every day, more people get power back, more people get water back, more lights come on, more businesses reopen. The boil advisory for Weaverville is now lifted. That's great. Improvements are happening. So remind yourself of that and envision a time that is even more better. It's true. A lot of rebuilding will take a long time. The River Arts District, Swannanoa, Black Mountain, Burnsville, Marshall, Hot Springs, Barnardsville. It's going to take a long time. But there has already been incredible work done. Rebuilding has already had an amazing effect, and it will continue. So remember that and visualize that hopeful future and remind yourself. We've experienced something big, and it will change us. It has affected us in hard ways, but good ways. Let it change you. Don't try to pretend everything's fine, because it's not. There are many areas you can drive today, and you will see it is not okay. Go to Chimney Rock. So don't pretend like it's okay, but accept the change. Because ultimately, the change is growth. Whenever we experience loss, it affects us in deep ways, but it changes us in deep ways. It opens up wounds or holes in our heart, but those open holes let us grow deeper to plant down deeper spiritual roots as we mature. So let yourself be changed. The disciples in the story, they heard God's voice in a new way. They saw Jesus in a new way. They let themselves be changed. Then I wonder what it was like when they went back down the mountain. Only they had experienced this. Everybody else was, fishing, selling goods at the market. How's your mom? How's your brother doing? And they had just experienced this incredible thing. And I felt that too when I finally had cell service or internet access, and I would see what's going on in the world. I was almost disgusted that people were talking about sports and politics. Who cares about a football game? Who cares about a dumb election? Everything was about this experience. And it was so weird to see people in other states just, word vomiting on Facebook or something. And they didn't know what it was like because they didn't experience this like we did. And I wonder if when the disciples got down to the bottom of the mountain, people started whispering, oh, did you hear that Peter, James, and John went up there with Jesus? What did he say? Maybe did they tell him some special message? I don't know. Are they going to change some things around here? They didn't invite me. I don't know. What were they doing up in that mountain? I don't know. People who don't know will spread rumors. And last Wednesday, a lot of the folks who were here said, I really don't like all the misinformation and lies and rumors that people who aren't from here have been spreading on the internet. And it makes me mad. And I said, yeah, I get it. It's been really wonderful to read and see from our elected representatives of all stripes, all across the political spectrum, who are from here, say, this is what's happening. These are the challenges. These are the good things that are happening. And then it makes me so mad to hear people who aren't from here claiming to know what's going on because they don't know. When the disciples got back down, they had some incredible stories to share. And we do too. So I encourage you, again, to share those stories. especially to people who aren't from here, who need to know the tragedy and the challenge, but also the beauty and the inspiration. Even amidst the cloud and the fear in that story, the disciples heard God's voice in a new way. Even though they were terrified, they saw Jesus shining brighter than they had ever seen before. And so it is with us. Even amidst the loss and the devastation, we have seen Jesus shining brighter than we have ever seen before. I can vouch for right here in this church. I've been in a Weaverville bubble for 2 weeks, so I don't know what's going on anywhere else in the world. But I can testify that right here in our buildings, we have seen Jesus. Like he said in Matthew 25, when I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. When I was a stranger, you invited me in. Whatever you did to those brothers and sisters of mine, you were doing it for me. And that's what we've been doing every day. That means we were serving Jesus every day. And since we who want to follow Jesus' example are now the hands and feet of Christ in our world, whenever we love our neighbors as ourselves, we are being Jesus also. There has been so much Jesus shining brightly in here, all through our county in Western North Carolina. So remember that. Remember the Jesus that you have seen. Yes, we will kind of balance out to a new normal, but we will not be the same. Remember the Jesus you have seen. Let all of this awesome generosity and activity bolster our mission, renew our sense of what it means to be good people and God followers. Let it inspire what we do as a community so that it builds a stronger church and builds a stronger Weaverville and in all of Western North Carolina. Remember the Jesus that you have seen. Remember that you were scared. Remember how God spoke to you and inspired you. And when we get back down to the ground, make sure everyone else knows the truth of that love. Let us pray. Oh God, we have been through a lot the past 2 weeks. We have been scared. We have been anxious. We have been jittery. We've been excited. We've been inspired. We've wanted to help. We've been helping. We've wanted to serve. We've been serving. We've been a part of something incredible in good ways and in hard ways. So our prayer today is that indeed we are changed, that we do not go back to life as it was. Do not let us go back to sleep, O God, but keep us awake to the needs of your world. Help us not to work our butts off in service to others only when a natural disaster comes, but help us to always welcome the honor of serving food to the hungry every single day. Help us to remember the Jesus that we have seen these past 2 weeks. Help us to remember how you have called us to step up and work and inspired us. Help us to be different. Help us to be better in spite of the tragedy. May it be used to grow us and strengthen us so that we can truly show your love and build your kingdom on earth as it is in heaven. Amen.